And hello, hi. Before I give you any context about who I am, what I do, I want to give you a quick scenario, and that is because you probably have lived some version of it. It's a Tuesday morning, an email comes in, the trial date moved from October 15th to November 12th. So you have 28 extra days. It's good. That could be good. So then your paralegal opens up her calendar. She updates the date. That's done, right? 45 seconds. Everything is updated. Good. But then your paralegal stops because she knows that the date wasn't just in a date. That actually there are a couple of things that will come off of this change. And this is where we come in because she needs to think, well, we have the expert report deadline that was based on that other date. So I have to update this. I have a deposition prep. I have to tell the partner to review. We have to change the client update meeting. And then it starts a cadence of events that fall. And 6 hours later, she's still not sure if she caught all of it. And just based on that one simple change. This is what we're going to talk today. It's not absurd. It has happened to every single attorney and paralegal throughout history. And I hope I can help you to how to handle this. Sharing, let me send a request. Good. Okay. Let me share my screen so we can have a guide as I go through. So the first thing that I'm talking about today, can everybody see my screen? I think yes, is the deadline drift, is the title of what we're talking in here. My name is Bruna, just so I give you a little presentation. I work as a legal designer for Legalboards. I'm also an attorney, which basically means that I have lived this in my skin, and also that I spend days inside law firms' operations thinking about how to handle this kind of situation. And what I can tell is that I keep seeing across all the firms that we work with, that is the same pattern, that when something changes, a date, an assignment, and a deadline, the information doesn't travel automatically, someone has to carry it manually every time. This is not a calendar problem. That is a coordination infrastructure problem. And most firms are running it without a structure that carries this data. And it's not because they don't care about it, obviously, but because nobody has named it clearly enough to fix it. It doesn't seem like a problem because it is in the calendar. Everybody knows it. It changed. But everything gets chaotic once a date changes. And why is that? So what we're going to try to do is name it, break it down, and give you something practical to take back with you. So that's it. So the first thing we're going to talk is the deadline cascade. So this is where we want to understand what is the problem. Let's give it a name. The deadline cascade will happen when one date changes and everything else that was built off it breaks, which was the where we started. It breaks silently, and the word silently, it's key to understand this because nobody will send you an alert that are dependencies that drift from this update. You know this, your paralegal know this. So the first thing that you need to be able to identify is the cascade. The step one is the anchor date. So this is the date that moved and that shifted the whole infrastructure behind it. So let's suppose that our anchor date is a hearing. So it changed the filing deadline. There's usually just one that will carry the rest of the other dates. But sometimes a judge rescheduling affects 3 matters at once, and you need to understand what is the exact date that changed. So what is the anchor date? How many matters were affected? Because sometimes, for example, a judge got sick and switch his calendar. You have you had one appointment with a judge that is near, so you do know that that matter changed. But this perhaps have affected more than just one matter. And instead of chasing your tail, perhaps you could just apply that change to all the matters that were affected. And if this is just a court issue change or a client request, that's also important to identify where this change come from. If it was from court, perhaps it was your own calendar issues that affected this, or it was a client that requested this update. That is important because depending on which one of those it is, it will you will understand whether it will impact other matters or not, and etc. The next step, understanding your deadline cascade, will be the delivered deadlines. So there are all the dates that exist because of the anchor. That's step one. So, for example, expert witnesses reports, deposition prep windows, client updates, brief deadlines. This is typically 5 to 15 dates per matter, and they are almost never written down in one place. So you have to understand what are the deadlines that come out of that anchor date that you need to understand to know what it is in order for you to update the rest, what comes out of that. So we can talk about the exist. You have two types of deadlines inside, at least two. That you have deadlines and due dates that we can work with. But basically is the little actions that will fall back silently once that main anchor date changes. So it's never almost never written down in one place because it's simple activity. So client status update meeting, that's recurring and that's quite normal. But if the trial date came, it's going to be earlier. Perhaps all of this will need to be updated, and everybody will have to be quickly looked into this infrastructure change in order to make sure that nothing will fall between the cracks. And the last step of understanding the deadline cascade is the coordination chain. Basically, is who needs to know in order to make sure that we got this. So this is the part that nobody talks about. It's not just which deadline moves. It's who needs to know what, in which order, before the next person can act. So your paralegal cannot reschedule a deposition until the attorney confirms the window. Your associate cannot adjust their memo until the brief deadline moves. So the chain will matter as much as the dates. You need to understand who needs to know what. So, okay, those are the people. My paralegal is informed, the responsible attorney, so the opposite party, I need to make sure that they also knows in which order, because it's important that everybody knows in a cadence that it will make that this information will be relevant for them, and that it will make sense to make sure that it doesn't break. So you can see by step 1, step 2, step 3, we grow on the complexity of what we're trying to assess. But like this, you will understand why something sometimes goes off and why it's important for you to map this out. So next time a date changes, you don't freak out, basically. So, and you understand that the problem is not that it wasn't on the calendar. The calendar is not the problem. The problem is that the calendar is the only place where all of this lived behind that little event that is scheduled 6 months from now. Okay. So in here, it's just a wrap of our last subject. So I've worked with solo firms, 2-person, a mid-sized litigation practice, and the size can change, but the pressure is always the same. You are always handling someone's life. And you have to understand that if work is living on emails, if deadlines are living only in calendars, and there is no structure connecting all of this, when a date changes, for example, in a solo firm, the lawyer catches it, because she knows every matter inside out. But it's only up to her to make sure that everyone is informed and etc. And this can be a lot. So this will take us to one other important thing that actually comes before this, but is understanding the cost of this, because it's not only extra work, it's extra stress that you will put on the back on yourself, or perhaps in your team, and perhaps it will be extra work, that it will cost you more extra hours to update documents that were sent with different dates, extra calls to extra meetings. So it's important that you keep that in mind, that it's just not a deadline, it's just not a calendar issue, it's a whole infrastructure that can break under this simple change. Okay. So what I saw across different firms, I highlighted three main issues. That first, people get notified out of order, which is what is a consequence of our step 3 from the last item that we were discussing. So someone updates the deadline before the owner even knows that this change had happened. So it's important that once a date is changed, first thing, you update everyone that is involved with that matter. Now, the people that are working from different versions of the timeline, they need to be on the same page about what has happened. Because otherwise, probably work will get done twice or not at all. So you need to make sure that everyone involved is informed, and in an order that it makes sense for them to be related with that information. Step 2, what I've seen that it's quite common is that the cascade isn't just forward. This basically means that it is quite underestimated, but most firms think about what needs to move next. But there are also the very important question of what has already been done under old assumptions. So a draft that was submitted, a client that was told a date, a co-counsel who confirmed availability for a certain date. But now everything has changed, and not only the tasks and the deadlines and the actions moving forward will be impacted by that, but also what have already been done. So you need to be able to take a look back and flag what if sometimes everything's okay, what has already been done stays the same, but you need to have a system that will also look back once something a date has changed, basically. And this is quite common, that we only look forward, but nobody, once a date changes, nobody is taking a look at what has already happened. And number 3, quite common, is cascade management is triage. So when a date changes, you don't need to fix everything at once. You need to fix the right thing. So, okay, first we update the calendar, and everything that needs to happen based on that needs to happen within the cadence. So people either panic and try to do everything at once, update everything and call everybody, or they freeze up and do nothing. So you need to understand what once a date switches. So once you have a new calendar deadline, it's important that you have an infrastructure already mapped of what are the most important milestones that will be impacted by this change, and how I will make sure that those are updated, that the right people are informed, and then we take a look if everything is missing. But you need to make sure that you don't go to the firefighting mode, trying to cover everything and letting everybody know, because it's the recipe for disaster. And this isn't theory. This is what we've seen with our practice, the ones that we have handled this. This one is halfway, and just so everybody, we have an agenda. And this one is fun. So it's spotting ticking time bombs before they go off. So in here, you take a time to reflect as we go through a few of the items. And if you spot a few similarities with your daily activities, perhaps that might be to look for. So think of your active matters like in your head, not all of them, just the ones that have been going go through your table today this week, and tell me if any of this applies. So like a hearing or a trial, if for these matters that you pull out, if a hearing or a trial change it and for the last 30 days, did you handle this manually, or has everyone verified all the delivery deadlines, not just the next one? So in the last 30 days, did anything change it? Did you handle it manually? And did you only update it the next step, or all the ones? Did you have the time to do this? Or think that if your paralegal got sick and was out for the next month, how would this impact on your calendar activities? Do you have a dependency map, or is in your paralegal's mind? That is just a thinker. How many people do you have involved? Oh, sorry. How do I come back? Sorry, I'll have to start over. Oop, here. We're good. So how many people do you usually have involved in a single matter? So you have a fixed team. So if you have a small team, or if you're a solo attorney, that's an easy one. But think of the people involved in a matter, not only the attorney and the paralegal, your team, but your client, the opposing party, if you have a specialist involved. So do you know how do you have this information somewhere? So if perhaps a calendar changes, you know where to find that information, that who are the people involved on this. So where are you tracking your deadlines? That is, it sounds so simple, but it is key. So is everybody using the same method, the same calendar? Or is it in someone's calendar, also in email? We are trying a few task apps. We have a spreadsheet, and we have post-its in everybody's tables. What is the system? What are the systems that you are using in order to track your calendar, your team's calendar, and etc. And okay, and I have a few more, but I think that we have enough to reflect on. But the fact is, if you said yes to any of those, if you said or if you didn't know how to answer, you probably have a calendar issue. But that's okay. That's actually why you're here. You have a sense that this might be happening, so don't worry. Um, so here we're going to get into the practical part. So we have a few guidelines, frameworks to where you should be aiming in order to keep this from happening, in order to solve this. This is what good coordination will look like. So here, have a single source of truth. So the last question that we went through, where are your deadlines living? There should be only one answer, one place. If I need to look at a calendar event of a task or for an important milestone for my matter, we will look at, and you'll fill out the information with what you're using. So when a date changes, everyone who needs to know can access that information, and everything that needs to move will move based on the update of that information in that place. It sounds simple, but right now most firms require someone doing the manual work in multiple platforms in order to make this work. Okay. Clear ownership. So this is basic. Atai went through a lot of this subject last time we meet, but who is responsible for updating the calendar, for informing the client, to informing the opposing party? These needs to be on the back of everybody's minds, just based on the deadline update. You don't have to assign this task to someone. Once the court informs you that a trial has been rescheduled, everybody knows what the next step is. that that is essential in order to make everything works. So clear ownership. Who needs to know? What order? Everything is already mapped. Automatic visibility, which kind of drift off the single source of truth, which basically everybody having access to that information. So nobody needs to run looking for where is it lying, go 3 levels deep inside the meta information to find where it was registered. Everybody has access to the what has been the calendar update itself, what has been drafted based on that, and etc. And the context comes to you. So this is refined, but you based on that little deadline, you need to easily access the context. So you can look backwards and see the documents that were sent, what info was already gathered, and it needs to just flow to you in a one way that you can access that information without needing to call people, perhaps have an uncomfortable conversation with your client because you don't know exactly how well informed he is of the previous date, if he got anything. So the context needs to flow easily to you. And okay. And this is a little checklist. And don't worry, actually, this we'll send it over to you through email after we're done, just so you understand. We are near the end, and this is like your take-home activity. So everything that we've talked about condensed into 5 steps, and that. And this is like a guideline. This we have to run this for every matter every time a date changes. And this will be your checklist in order to prevent chaos from happening. If you run this checklist every time a new date changes, you will probably be okay. And what I will try to do next is how and where you could do this in a way that is already preset. You don't have to do it manually yourself every time. It's important, but you have the information in here. So it's basically identify the anchor, map the dependencies, map the communication chain, what has already been done, and triage for urgency. That's quite important as well. So, and the most important reminder is, and it is in here because I do think it's important, that a cascade isn't resolved when the calendar is updated. It is resolved when every person in the chain can confirm that they are working from the new date. Okay. And we'll change it over to you. Right now, I will just quickly switch to Legalboards so we can see how it would look like in real life. Let me just switch on to my type. Can we see, are we seeing the other tab? Yes, okay, I can see. I will use this immigration board to set this example just because it's quite common. It's common for all the litigations issues, but the dependency chain is quite clear in here. So we are in Legalboards. So I have all of my immigration matters lying in here, which gives us easily the context as we have mentioned. And let's suppose I have received a notification, and it can happen through email, that a date that an interview was rescheduled. So that's the situation. We are thinking about an interview rescheduled here, but we can use the scenario of a trial getting changed or a witnesses will not be available. So all of this would have an impact on our calendar. And what Legalboards will give to you. So first thing, I would open my matter and you can see if what is the date that this is registered. So you can easily access that information. If I want to take a look of what have already been done, you have the context through the timeline. So you can move backwards and see client communications, what has already been drafted, and things like this. You will move on to the tasks and see who has done what. So if I switch to the completed tasks, it will give me context of what has already been performed for this specific matter. So that will give me a very strong insight if if anything needs to be redone or reinformed. And think that we are doing that in a scenario where we would do all of this manually. And actually, that would be step one. I have already information of who's involved within this matter as soon as I open it in here. And this is a scenario where you are doing this update change manually as you received the new date. But remember that you also have the option of if you have an automation chain that will be triggered based on a date being updated. So Legalboards will offer the option that every time you have a calendar update, so I have a new date. I have a date that it was already presetting there. So let's suppose I have a task in here, and based on this date, so let's work here. I have a visa expiration date. So 60 days before this happens, I have a series of actions that will fall in consequence. But what happens when this date changes? Will everything else be updated? Yes, that's exactly what we will do. So instead of running to your client to inform a new calendar deadline and your paralegal and the attorney are the opposing party, if you have this registered in an automation that will fire every time a certain date is updated, we can make sure that all those items that we went through previously will consequently and immediately happen just by this date being updated. So the 6 hours in the scenario that I gave in the beginning that your paralegal would have to go through in order to make sure that every consequence action reflects the new date will be triggered by automatically through the system. So people know, and your paralegal would have one simple instruction that is go to the matter and update our interview date or update our trial date. And based on this simple tweak, all the remaining actions that everybody that needs to be informed will switch reflecting this new date. And that's will save you a lot of time. So you will never have to worry about running through looking for information in different places and sending a bazillion emails. All of this is ready to go. So the infrastructure is ready to support you when those kind of unpredictabilities happen. And that's it.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. If someone has a question, please drop here at the Q&A session. We have 3 questions already. So I'm going to start firing to you a few of those. So the first one is, how do you keep attorneys actually checking their calendar?
I see that that's a quite common issue with handling attorneys and etc. So with this system that we are suggesting in here, the information will come to them. So once the date gets updated, they don't have to search in the calendar if anything changes to look for something. It will flow automatically. They will be swept on with that information without even needing to look for it. That's the whole idea.
Nice. Nice. And the other question I have here is, how far back should we check when a deadline change?
You have to take a look at least 60 days from the event, what was it scheduled for, and 60 days backward at least. So take a look at 2 months and take a look at the activities, if there were other activities that were based on this anchor in order to make sure that you can move calmly into looking forward now.
Nice. And the last one I have here is, what if different people track deadlines in different places?
You try to change it because this is an issue. This is a big red flag. If this is happening, the chances that you will get madly chaotic once the deadline changes, it's quite possible. We have a saying in Portuguese that it's like rice that everybody steers either gets salty or saltless. I don't know if it translates well. I have it in my heart that it does. But basically, if people are registered in 3 different places, you might be over notified and everybody twitching the tasks and the client getting 3 calls and said, I know it got changed. Or nobody will do nothing because, my colleague is also has in her calendar, and but she thought the same. And you can see what happens from there.
Yeah, yeah. And especially when the firms are growing, you think that we just add a new people at the firm and this person will bring the knowledge and start working. That's what we want, but they also need to follow the same structure, because if everyone is working in their own structure, it's obvious it's gonna break.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bruna. So I think this is all for today. We're gonna wrap up here and send for everyone the recorded session and also the checklist material Bruna show for us here as a download item for everyone. And that's it. So see you again next month for our
Yeah.
webinar. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye bye.